Hello everyone, if there is anyone. So gonna start doing things. Let me just check if the audio is working. Yep, seems to be. So in the last stream I started to work with optional and results and stuff like that. And at the end, after the stream, I was looking at the code. I wasn't really happy, so I remade stuff. So far, I only remade the optional related stuff. And because I'm using that in some episodes, I broke stuff apart. So I will make the episode 37 about the optional. So I did things and put in the episode 37 branch. So now I created a new 38 branch based on that. And we'll start doing the result things. And hopefully better, because I was not really happy with the results, the resulting code of that stream. So the optional part is really similar. I simplified maybe a bit over here, added some from nullable, just a helper to transform things that might be null into an optional, and created some extensions, a bunch of them, to do some things a little bit more functional. So if I use this one, for instance, if I go check it out, so this is a controller action, and instead of doing ifs and stuff like that, I'm using this map or, and or I map the result, or I map a not found. So it avoids ifs and stuff like that in these cases. So I prefer these changes, and I think it's more interesting when I actually write the post and create the episode. So, but this is done. So the final result, if you want to see, you'll be able to see or read when I finally do that post. I still need to publish the 36, but during this stream I'll tackle the result things to avoid as many exceptions. Because if I find new no, I just want to find in the group management. So argument null exception will always be there, because yeah, but the others, like this one, shouldn't be throwing this kind of exceptions. So I'll replace this with results. So instead of copying pasting what I already have in another repo, I'll start from scratch to try to make it cleaner. But of course I'll take a look at that. So I think I tried to explain in the last time, but I can repeat. So the idea is to have a result, but have it do it in a way that when I return it, the handler needs to handle all specific cases, and we can't have a bunch of results. We just have a specific set of results. So for that we're using something that in functional programming it's called tagged unions, or some types, or something like that. But because we don't have the appropriate language constructs to do that in C#, we must do some trickery. And in this case, the trickery is implement the visitor pattern to force it to work. But let's implement. So the result, what we want. This isn't really needed. So I won't use it for now. So let's start with the important part. So result, we want a result of something. We want the constructor to be protected. No, not protected. Private. If I recall, yeah, I forgot to put that here. We need the constructor to be private, otherwise any other class would be able to inherit from the stuff on the cell phone. So if we don't have this private here, any class can inherit, and it breaks our premise of forcing every implementation to have to be handled. So we need it to be private, and now we want public sealed class success. Do I need a no. Which is the result of t value, and we want public abstract class error, which also from result t value. So success needs the value, which is t value, result, no setter, and we can do it from here. And now the error is abstract because we want to have a bunch of errors. Let me check what were the ones I did. So I have a message. I'll do a message as well. If we had if we need translations, this message won't be very useful, and when we want to do real validations we need to change this, but for now I'll keep it simple, just a message. And I'm doing too much typing. Protected, in fact private, and now the types of errors we want. So what did I do? Not found and invalid. Sealed class not found. Okay, so this is all we need for now, because keep it simple, for the results. So let's start using them. So I add this here, and now instead of having an optional, this will now be result user, but no, not year. Here, this will return the result. So when this doesn't work, we return okay. So this part is the same, just replace the optional with the not found. The optional it would be good enough, it just isn't, because I want to return a result all the times, so the caller, in this case the controller, can easily transform this into an HTTP response. So now, instead of this kind of error, we can do invalid we can just say this. So now, instead of throwing exceptions, we can handle these explicitly. And now return will be, it would be great if C# could infer these things. Maybe I can create some helpers. That's better. If I needed to instantiate it, I would need to put this in there again. So like this, less typing. Now for this, there's really nothing to do because I think it can't infer the result, the response type. I'm pretty sure C# can't do that. I can try just to be sure. can't infer. It would be great if it could infer the return, but it can't, so it's basically the same. It's just one word less. I can leave it just because there's no harm, but there's also no real great advantage. Hmm. Yep. Some enters in here. Okay. So this is using the results the easy way, the typical way, just doing ifs. Let's see if we have other examples that are better. Use cases. Result here. Complain here. So here return result success. So this is done. Delete never does anything, doesn't need this, because if it fails, don't care. In here, this one is optional. Okay, so this one can be result. Need to adapt this one. And again, the optional would be good enough, but I'll normalize everything to use the results. So in this case, result.map. So I'll use map value var instead. Result.success. This one. What's the signature of this one? So when there's no result, we'll return not found. Okay, so what's missing? Yep. So this is using the functional approach instead of doing ifs, which ends up being kind of an if. But if there's a value, return the group. If there is no value, return not found. This one's done. Get user groups. Pretty sure this doesn't need it because it's a collection, and the collection will always return a collection even if empty. And update was the first one we touched. Okay, so for returning the results, we're done. But now we need to handle those results in the controller. So it was using the optional stuff. And now we'll move to using the results. So get all, it's all good. For get one, now I'll go to, now is where we need to create those visitor stuff, but let's just check. So shared in the controllers, there's a result extensions. I'll copy this part, but I think I'll need to do some adaptations. Okay, so now we need to implement that visitor pattern for this to work. Let me just copy the other part. Okay, so what's missing is this result visitor. So let's implement this part. In the results, hello noon. So in the results, we need to implement that visitor pattern. So let me just copy this part. No need for this. So currently the types of, what do you want? I never, yeah, sure, do what you want, even though I never remember what this means. So right now we only have success, not found, and invalid. We'll probably have more in the future. Right now it's what we have. And now we need to implement this accept. and the implementation will be visitor.visit this. So this is the part that makes all this glued together, because all need to implement and they need to be registered here. So this is just a matter of copying and pasting. Okay, so and this visitor interface has this and the tvisit result. It's to implement them. So this way, oops, static. I figured it was looking very big, but in fact it's not that big. It's the problem is that I have this zoom in for you guys to be able to see it in the stream, because I normally try to follow this line to be sure I don't put these things too large. Okay, so the visitor. So this is working almost. Just one interesting thing. The first implementation I did of these visitor things, it didn't accept the type of the visitor, because we just needed to implement this interface. So it's not really needed to have this visitor here to work. So if we take a look here, so this is the version, the current version. So it accepts the T visitor and the T result. But in the original, it just got the I result visitor. So this is interesting stuff, I think. So the reason for having this is that if we use the interface directly, and use a struct, the struct will be boxed, so there will be an extra allocation in the heap. But if we put the generic, the type here, it will pass the struct without boxing. And why is this nice? Because our visitor is very basic. It's just something that implements that interface, and in this case converts to some I action result. If we can take advantage of this to every time in here, we always need to do a new, because we can't reuse the others, because we receive a mapper. So in this case I could use always the same, because it doesn't get the mapper. But in this case I always have to create a new instance of the visitor. So if it's a reference type, it's always something new to put in the heap, and the garbage collector will need to clean it up. But if this is a struct, which it is, when we do this, there's nothing new allocated in the heap, and we can pass it, and when we pass it to accept, it will just copy it. Because the struct only has a single func inside of it, it's as if we are just passing the func instead of having to pass. So instead of allocating two objects, we are allocating just one. So I can show you an example. I did a benchmark with this, if I can find it. So these are the the things. So when we implement interface with a class, it takes this long and allocates 24 bytes. Yeah, I'm over optimizing, but if it's easy to do, we can do it. If we do with a struct, but just with an interface, so the first version, it's the same in terms of memory and more or less the same in terms of time. Again, for the class, again, it's the same. These slight variations in time is because it's just too small of a difference and the same thing. So the class using a generic or not is basically the same. But the struct in this case is half the time and didn't allocate anything. So this is a win. If it was super complex to do, it's probably overkill, but because it's super easy to do, we just need to receive the generic and put a struct in there. So really easy. So this is missing because in the first implementation I had the value in there. So if it's a success, so why is it the result is a success? I called it result. I'll call it value. So now in the controller, instead of doing this, could just do result to action result. And what's missing? Cannot convert instance. Oh. I'm confused. What is your pain? I had this pain the other time. Okay. So that's the nice thing of using that result in every place, is that I can do these extension methods that for the most usual ways work, and we just need to call. So just to take another look, what I'm doing here is using that visitor. So when we return the result, we accept that visitor, which does the mapping. And if we take a look at in here, there's the mapping. So when we visit, when it's a success of unit, we return a 204. When it's a success of normal, like have some return value, then we just map it and the API will return a 200. When it's a not found, we'll return a 404. And when it's an invalid, we'll return a 400. So this maps all the types of errors to the type of return. And in here, all it does is call that visitor. is called the accept on the result with the visitor. I'm just something that it's probably missing. Okay, yeah, this check. So I accept this to be null, but only if there's no need to map, so if it's the same type. Sometimes the code I write is too tricky, but okay. So now update should be the same, so nothing to map. Calling this should do it. Yeah. Okay, so now all that remains is this one, and this one we can't use that because I'm not using it's not a 200 nor a 204, it's a little different, so we'll need to handle this ourselves. So with this the easy way is if result is result success otherwise this is the prettiest thing, but basically what you're doing, because the type of success is a bit different, I'm handling the success, and if it's not a success as expected, we just fall back to the usual way of doing things. In fact, I don't think this will work, but I'll try it anyway. Oh, it does work better. So this works. We'll do what we expect, hopefully. I'll just test it in a minute. I'm not completely happy with it, but at the same time, I don't think it's... Maybe we can create some extensions, but don't know if it's worth it. Maybe it's if this happens a lot, but I'll see you in the future. Let's just see if all these things that I've been doing work. All those warnings. I enabled nullable reference types, but then didn't adapt too much to it, so still have a bunch of warnings in here. Or was it? Where was it? I don't know. But I didn't adapt to the nullable reference types. Are we there yet? Let's see. And it works. Or not. I broke something. 500. Ooh, I've been trying to get rid of null reference exceptions, and then I grabbed a null reference exception. Great. line 45. It's a bad bonus. Come on. It isn't supposed to break. It should work at the first try. If even. So let's try details. So result. Value. Seems okay. Okay, so I didn't pass a mapper. Yeah, of course this should have unit tests, but I'm just playing around with stuff, not really didn't want to bother. I have some unit tests for some specific cases. So the problem here is that there is no mapper because the type is the same, but I'm calling it nonetheless. Because this tmodel this is interesting. It's stopped everything. So I will solve this one. So the visit receives a t-value and returns a t-model, which might be the same. So no need to so I need to map it to itself, but the problem is that because the types are different or might be different, I can just put that way. So maybe instead of having the mapper like this, should always receive a mapper. So let's see. Instead of doing it this way, we did it. It's not optional anymore. We'll throw value mapper is mandatory. Yeah. This is one of the most annoying things in the framework, is that the argument null exception first argument is the parameter name, but the argument exception, if I'm not mistaken, is the message. So it's reversed, which is very annoying. But okay, so now I should have an error in the extensions? No. This is awkward. I removed the optional, so why is this still? Ah yes, that would surely work out well. A PR to reverse the arguments, which everyone everywhere uses that way. It's not a breaking change at all. Should be fun. Would be slapped in the face as soon as I opened it. Those guys would fly from the US just to slap me. I'm confused. There's some problem here between the chair and the computer. So we have this result mapping visitor. Ah, I remember. That's the weird thing about structs. Structs always have a constructor without an argument. So that's why it isn't doing an error. So, okay. That's a bit annoying about structs, but okay. Private static. Let's see. First, what we want to do, because the value and the input and the output here are the same, we want to do this. Ooh. Okay. So now it should work. But if this was production, for sure we should follow Nunu's advice and do unit tests. But if I do unit tests for everything I do in this series, I would not finish the series in this lifetime. And it's already over a year. But should put a parental advisory. Children, don't do this at home. Write unit tests. Or integration tests. Write some tests. Not nothing. What about now? Does it work? Why? Value cannot be null. Parameter result. What? This is a different one. Let's go debug again. Or let me see web. Value cannot be null. Parameter result. Line 10. Management. Debuggy. Just do one thing over here in Rider, because every time I start, it launches the browser. How do I disable it? I forget it. So let's see the error. On a breakpoint? Yeah. Visit, result. Okay, it's fixed. It was that dot result that I had there, probably because of iAction result. That's not needed. Okay, so remove, this works. Can remove the breakpoint. Save. Okay, it works. So we have this result thing, some helpers. We're implementing the visitor pattern and doing this abstract and private stuff. So if I go here, create a new test result, I shouldn't be able to inherit from result. Instance, and cannot access private constructor of result, so it doesn't allow it. And if I try to do error, doesn't allow it. If I try invalid, it doesn't allow it because it's a sealed. So the only way to create new results is in here, and by doing it we need to implement the visitor and all of that, so it forces us to handle all kinds of errors and success. So it's a bit more complex than doing this thing in functional languages, for instance, but it's something we do once or twice and then reuse it across the project. Now, one thing we can do, let's take a look at the, don't know if it's complex enough, but let's see if we have a case where we can do that. No, not here. I was thinking about creating some extension methods to chain calls to the results, like functionally, instead of doing ifs and returning. But I don't think this is complex enough to do it. Maybe in the future. I'm missing stuff. I'm forgetting completely. Need to always change this in here. So this rename, yeah, completely forgot. So this rename, instead of returning void, should return the result of unit. And I haven't created this class. This comes from mediator, but I'll just reuse it instead of creating my own. But the idea is like a void type. So if all goes well, we return result success of unit. if string worldwide space return result and this throw if not admin becomes return result dot. So we need a new type in this case, which will be unauthorized. So let's see. We go here. We need a new unauthorized. So just copy paste this part. Unauthorized. Change this. So we created a new one. For starters, we can see that the visitor start breaks because there's no accept. There's no visit that accepts a unauthorized. So we need to go here. Change this to unauthorized. And now this works. So now we can return. Just do one more thing. No. So created here, but we need it here. Now there's no error in here. Stop. Okay, so now unauthorized unit so no more exceptions. So if the user rename fails because if the group rename doesn't work, it's unauthorized. If the name is invalid, so invalid, otherwise new name and result success. And now we need to use this. And the easy way would be just to, if result is in fact, no. If the result is error, we can return immediately this, and this is where an extension is helpful. I created one somewhere. result extensions. No, not here. Shared probably. Result extensions. Map. It wasn't an extension. Let me check. Result. I think I'll try it in a different way. So basically what we want is to convert this error, regardless of the type, if it's invalid, if it's unauthorized or not found. And because it's an error result unit, we cannot just do return result, because this is unit and we want to return of update group details result. Even though it doesn't matter because it is an error, but because the result is generic for the success case, we need to convert it. So let me see, let's create some result extensions. Public static and do public result. So result of the out dot error, because we only want to map errors in this case, and call as error of, and we'll get the in, the out, and we'll accept and I'll follow the same approach. So error dot accept so error accept until return the T out, and we need a visitor. So let me just put here. How did I do this here? That's why I put everything in the blog and source, because I forget how I do things. So visitor we'll call it as error of visitor. We don't need this. And here we never have a success, so throw new, what is the name? Not implemented. Or not supported. Not supported. Not sure if this is the correct place to use a not supported exception, but let's pretend. So not supported. For errors only. So this is really basic what we need to do, but so we have an error of type t input. In fact, let me rename this to be consistent. And over here, what we need to do is just do a result unauthorized of t output. It gets result dot message. And we'll change this to be not found and invalid. Why do you... Not a good time. So what did I do wrong? Okay. Still not good. Ah, of course. Sometimes this generic stuff, it's great in C#, not as good in Java, but sometimes it would be great if it was better even in C#. But confused. Too much generics. So we have this method that gets a result of error. Returns another result, error. The visitor seems well implemented. It just converts one type of result to another. It's not the stream that's paused, it's just me that the brain is paused. So as error of no. So we accept, yeah, it's the type of visitor and the type of result. So the type of visitor is this one or not. Loading GIF, yeah. I need a lot of GIFs. For the curse words I won't say, I need a lot of GIFs. So as result, error visitor of T input, T output. The result will be result of error of the output. This seems good. What are you not liking about this? Pretty sure I had the same problems the last time I implemented it. Every time one forgets. So, why? And then again. This error message is probably pointing me to the correct place, but I'm not getting there. Any ideas? It's exactly the same, or so it seems, as I did before. Let me just check. Just copy this part in here, just to for comparison. Where is flat map visitor? So this thing it likes. So it's the difference between those signatures. So in here I had flat map visitor of T input, T output, and return the result of output. This needs to be like this. Input, output, result, the output, and pass in the thing. The only difference I'm seeing is this error. running out of ideas. I think it will be time to close the stream and look at this again at another time, because I think we know those situations where if I keep hammering I won't see anything, but if I just stop and look at it again like tomorrow, it will be clear. Because right now I cannot see it. There's a new follow, B Axon. Hello. If you know anything about why this is not working, I appreciate it. The generics. Oh, wait. Is it like because of this? It cannot be. Oh, such pain. And why don't you like it? Well, yeah. Makes sense. I was about to give up, but it worked. Fantastic. Those generics. Mother truckers. This flat map is for another day. Okay. So now we have this. So now I can do, or not. Yep. So because we created the extension method only for errors, which makes sense, we can only call them in errors. Error of incorrect number of type parameters. Really? Okay, that's probably why I didn't do last time. Instead of extension methods, I put it directly in the type. It was to avoid having to pass in this. But the problem if I do it that way is that I have to repeat in all classes. So if we take a look at what I did here in the result, every time in all the errors I have this code. It's not a lot, but it's a bit annoying. But maybe I prefer to do it this way instead of having to pass this all the time. So all this work, it was for nothing. Okay, it was to learn stuff. But besides that, it was for nothing. Such pain. Result success. And put here the error class. And then override the thing. This is a invalid. And this will be unauthorized. Now this works. This, I'm sad to delete it, but I'll delete it. Eventually I'll use these, I'll implement these kinds of things, maps. Will I do it today? It won't be for sure. I will close in a bit, but let me just check. So this is a good place to do that. Yeah. Yeah, I can do it quickly just because it's nice. So I'll copy this. So what I need is a flat map. So I don't know if you folks know these functional things like map and flat map, but basically map is like a select in link, and flat map is like select many. So it's to flatten the, instead of a collection of collections, it becomes just a collection. And this apply to these kinds of things if you have worked with RX, like RxJS with Angular. That we make use of that flat map and stuff like that. With the observables, instead of having observable of observables, we have an observable, so we flatten. And this is the same logic, because inside of mapping a result, we can get another result, and then we would have a result of results. So if we implement a flat map, we will have a result. So if I now go to this handler here, this is one approach, having it like this. But if this thing is working, we should do result.flatMap, and we don't want anything. It ends up this is not the greatest example because this rename returns unit, but so we can do flat map and do this. Aha, we can't, because it's async. When I implemented this, the samples in this project are not async, so this needs to be adapted. Okay, this is for the next. I will have to work on this on the next stream probably. I could do it offline, but this seems interesting to do in a stream. Don't know if you agree, but because this is a bit more less usual to implement. Use flat map. Drop what to do here. Use flat map. Start doing the if to use the flat already implemented flat map. You probably need some adjustments for async stuff, I think. So I'll probably have to create like a flat map async or something weird like that. Need to make some tests, but it's I think it's a good topic for the next stream. We'll implement flat map because why not? We use select and select many and all of that, all of those stuff a lot of times, and this probably interesting to see how to implement those kinds of things. And even this I copy pasted and didn't really explain, so maybe I can explain in the next one. So yeah, seems like a plan for next week. Next week probably the stream instead of Friday will be Thursday, because on Friday I won't be home. So I think that's it for this, and the missus is arriving, so it's time to stop. Or I'll be slapped. Okay, so with the work on the results partially done, let's wrap up this stream. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope to see you in the next one. And if you have questions and stuff like that, you don't forget, you can always ask. See yous.